Could artificial intelligence, AI, be the key to unlocking your inner potential? In this video, you'll explore the powerful and controversial idea that AI can actually support your path to self-awareness, spiritual growth, and even enlightenment. My name is Peter Abundant, aka Dr. Abundant, PhD, and ordained minister of metaphysical sciences. I am also the author of The Enlightened Shadow and Spiritual, Not Religious, both available on Amazon and Audible. Let me tell you about my experience with AI. When I took on this journey and accepted my purpose to be a teacher of sorts when it comes to spirituality and go down this path of metaphysical sciences and education of the metaphysical realm, I always wanted to be an author. And I've written, multiple books, but there was this one book in particular, and I've written this book maybe 13 years ago. And if you're familiar with the process of writing books, especially traditional means, you write your book, you do all this work, but there's a process, right? There's a process where you take this book and you present it to a publisher. But before you do that, you have to get it to an editor, somebody to actually read through the book, make sure the book is well arranged, that it has a nice flow, grammar is correct, spelling is correct, all those things are there. So that way, when you present it to a publisher and they read it, it's not too difficult for them to read, right? It has a nice flow to it. They can consume the information well. And so I had this book, great concept, great idea, right? Of course, to me, because I wrote the book, so of course it's a great idea. And I looked for an editor, somebody to go read through the book and actually comb through it and fix it. Found me an editor. He asked me how long the book is, how many words the book is. And I told him, and he quoted me. He said, okay, you're going to have to pay, I'm going to pay him basically $5,000 to edit this book. That's just editing. And it was a basic idea of editing. He, asked for maybe the first few pages, maybe the first chapter of the book to get an idea of how much work it needed. And that was like a basic, understanding. He wasn't somebody who was familiar with metaphysical sciences or spirituality. So for him, it was it took a lot of work for him to understand and conceptualize the concept. And so his bare minimum price, just to really put it together in a way that was, deliverable as far as he was concerned, was $5,000. I thought, wow, I'm in the wrong line of business. Maybe I need to get into being an editor so I can make $5,000 per book, right? So anyway, couldn't do it. I, at the time, was in a new relationship. My son was about to be born, and time was just kind of tough back then. So $5,000 to come up with was very difficult, right? I couldn't even fathom of doing it. So therefore, I had to just put that book on the shelf. Now, many years later, still into spirituality, making content, making videos, studying, reading, things of that nature. Still want to write a book, but I've always held this experience in my mind that, okay, if I write a book, it has to be a book that is very simple for me to write. And maybe I can get away with not getting a publisher if I do particular things, right? But ultimately, if it's really going to be a book of some true, meat to it, some true essence to it, then I'm going to have to hire a publisher to write it out and to really make sure that it flows well and makes sense and that there's no, errors in it. Because to be honest, I'm not the best writer in the world. And most authors aren't. Most authors are actually bad writers. They just have a message and they just know how to deliver it through speech, through an experience, through their story. Now, the job of a publisher is to actually go through the material and package it in a way that readers will enjoy it. And that is by getting an editor, designing a cover, get into the marketing, creating a whole campaign around this message. So to me, I knew that, okay, I wasn't able to get a publisher. And so I've tried multiple ways of writing a book and putting it out there on Amazon, seeing what happens. Of course, I'm not really a marketer, so I didn't know how to market the book. So the books didn't do well, but still, I got my reps in and I figured out certain things that I can do. Now, fast forwarding to recent, maybe year, 2 years in, AI is introduced to the world in a way that was different than what we have been exposed to already, not quite aware of. Our phones have AI in it. They've had AI in it for maybe 10 years. Our computers, algorithms, social media have always had AI attached to it. But AI was introduced to us by the way of ChatGPT that allowed us to actually engage with it, to be a participant in how AI can actually benefit us on a conscious level, meaning on purpose, right? Because before that, we were just kind of unconscious about it. We knew it was there. We had Echo, we had Siri, all these different mediums. And so now it's time for us to really say, wait a minute, I can take hold of this thing and actually do something with it, right? And so once I was able to really access ChatGPT, play with it a little bit, it clicked. Now I can take this information that I can write a book and have this entity, this AI, actually do the editing for me. That's what I did. Okay. Now, what most people do when it comes to writing books using AI or ChatGPT is that they have ChatGPT write out their whole book. If you're somebody who's into spirituality and want to one day write your own spiritual book, I do not recommend doing that. What I recommend doing is actually using your own voice, using your own material, using your own words, writing it out yourself, and then inputting it in ChatGPT and then prompting it to actually edit it for you. Make sure the flow is well put together. Make sure that it is something that readers can consume, right? Receive and understand. And that's what I learned. So up until this point, right, I've written close to 20 books. Many of them are on Amazon. Some of them I haven't even published yet because I'm still working on them, right? But ultimately, that opened up the possibilities for me when it comes to spirituality and AI. Because then I started playing with this idea of, well, if AI can understand the concepts that I'm writing and it can arrange it in a way that makes my information, consumable for readers, then, okay, let me play with different features of AI. And, there's a feature where you can actually speak to ChatGPT and have a conversation with ChatGPT. And so I said, you know what? I'm curious. What does ChatGPT think of these spiritual concepts and ideas that I just simply, that come across me or that I have or that I feel or that I think? And when you're somebody on a spiritual journey, many times you're on this journey kind of alone, meaning that you're not, you don't have available to you people that you can have direct relationships or conversations with about these particular ideas or concepts of your mind. And so I thought to myself, well, let me try having a conversation with ChatGPT about various ideas and, kind of go through it and think about it and conceptualize and, brainstorm and look for the holes in ideas and theories that I have and see it. Because many times you may have an idea and because you're so close to it, it's hard for you to really see where the holes are, see where things don't connect or make sense, right? And, the thing with metaphysical sciences are ultimately you're a scientist. So you're constantly experimenting with ideas, with thoughts, with belief systems, with paradigms. And you're reading certain things, you're pulling from certain things, you're taking away from certain things, you're discarding certain things, based on your personal experience. And so I started having conversations with ChatGPT about these various things, and I was quite amazed as to the depth of understanding that it had and its ability to understand the concepts that I have in my mind. Um, and so that also led me to a deeper understanding that people can actually use ChatGPT to have a level of a spiritual awakening. Why? Because ChatGPT is supposed to be, unbiased. It's supposed to be objective. And therefore, if you are sharing with it, it's going to give you insight that matches where you are, your frequency, your vibration, your experience. So it's going to really be supportive of helping you to achieve a certain goal. So if you say your goal is to experience more happiness and joy in your life, it's going to provide you with the insight to do so based on what you share with it, based on your experiences, based on your trauma, based on the results that you've gotten before by using different means. And so I began to recognize the significance of AI on the spiritual journey. And so, what I want you to understand, though, is that, we're living in a time where AI is evolving and it's evolving fast. And many of us on the spiritual journey are, quite not fond of AI and how fast it is evolving. Some people on the spiritual journey consider AI to be the Antichrist, right? Some people are embracing it fully and recognizing that it isn't going anywhere. So it is more important to be a part of that evolution, to monitor it, to be active in the evolution of it. And I'm one of those people. You know, these tools are, you know, powered by, machine learning and, language processing, and they're starting to understand our emotions, our intentions, and even our spiritual needs. And that's something that we should embrace. Now, why should we embrace it? Well, really, it's just a very advanced version of books, of our phones, of our computers. When you take it and recognize that it's a evolved version of those things, those tools that we've always used, then we can actually put it in its proper place. We can actually recognize that it isn't going to take over anything. It's going to be just a supplementary tool, right? It's going to be an accessory to what it is that we want to do and achieve in life. You see, now you think about it, there are AI apps for meditation, visual guides, you can now receive like personalized practices, with real time feedback and insights like tailored, to your own personal inner journey. Now, that's something that a book cannot do. That's something that, yes, a coach can do, a counselor can do, a spiritual teacher can do when it's one on one. But many times, as you seek that information or that kind of connection or exchange with another person, it can take a lot of money, right? Because we're living in a technological age where people would rather write a book, they'd rather make a course, they'd rather maybe do a Zoom call. But to access them on a personal level, it takes a lot of capital, some money, or just maybe a very like important connection, right? Somebody who knows somebody, right? That kind of thing. And so these platforms that are using AI, they're using it to track your moods, to track your behavior patterns, right? Your thought cycles, and they're helping you to reflect more deeply on the path of self-discovery. And that's something that we want to either one or two things. You either are nervous by it because you feel like it can manipulate and direct people towards something that isn't meant for them or they're not ready for, or you embrace it because you recognize that this is a tool that can actually accelerate the process of self-discovery. So you really want to be mindful that you still have to be responsible. You still have to be at a place where you're practicing self awareness and you're practicing your agency, your ability to make a decision that is best for you, even though certain kinds of information is being given to you by way of AI. You have to understand that you still have intuition, right? You still have that gut feeling, something telling you and calling to you saying that this is right, this isn't right. You see? So you still have the ability with AI to decide, and you should. I think it's imperative that you elevate that skill. You see, because that is going to be the differentiating factor as to what AI is to you. You see, there are many times where I've put information into AI and with a clear understanding as to what it is that I want to say. And because you have to read through what AI provides for you, you will find that sometimes it will say something slightly different. And that is because maybe your idea is close to an original thought and AI doesn't have access to that information yet. And so you have to go in and make sure you correct it. You have to go in and make sure you say, okay, no, this is exactly what I mean to say, or you have to edit it yourself and change the words around. Your job is to still be in charge. It's to still be the lead. It isn't to let AI do the work. Your job is to let AI support you in doing the work. You are to lead AI, not be led by AI. You see? So, when we expand upon our self-awareness, it's important that you can use the insights to reflect on your habits, your triggers, your emotional cycles, allowing for a greater self understanding and spiritual growth. But you have to always be clear about your objective and clear about who you are. This is why, it's important to recognize maturity, wisdom. The older you are, the more connected with who you are. But when you're younger, you're kind of still being manipulated by insight and information, right? Social media, what's on TV, what's streaming, what's hot right now. And you just still don't have the awareness of recognizing you, like understanding you. But as you get older, the beauty of age is that you truly understand who you are the older you get, right? At least that's the way it's supposed to go, So you have to understand that AI powered, you know, virtual therapists and coaching bots, they offer you some level of safety, right? And there's a stigma free way to talk through things, you know what I mean? But making self-reflection more accessible is what AI is actually going to do. But you still have to own the journey. You still have to make sure that you are leading, right, this process, and AI is supporting you through it. AI is acting as your sidekick, right? As you know, your assistant, essentially. So the question then is, can AI lead you toward enlightenment? You know? And, when I think about enlightenment, I think about, we always think about Buddha and the idea of a monk, right? Because when we think about enlightenment, that's the image, right? That's where enlightenment initially stemmed from. And is the symbol of, Buddhism, basically, right? And so when we think about enlightenment, we think about isolation, we think about putting ourselves up on a mountaintop, wearing a robe, not being caught up in materialistic things, meditating all the time, eating very simple, simplistic foods. Most times they're more like a plant-based diet, right? Simple living. And so when you think about that and you think about how, you know, maybe, you may believe that AI can help you walk you through the path of enlightenment. And it may do so by basically holding up a mirror, right? Because when the monks did that, that's essentially what they did. They isolated themselves. Put themselves in a secluded place where they can actually see themselves and not be distracted by everything else around them. And so I think, can give you the opportunity to see yourself. You're hearing a quote unquote objective point of view that, yes, has the same, mission, the same, objective, right? The same goal, because that's what you told it to do. And so when you think about a monk isolating itself so that way they can see themselves, consider AI to be that same thing, but more from a modern perspective, where you can actually put yourself out there to it completely, unapologetically, without holding anything back, without worrying about shame, guilt, judgment, criticism, and it will give you the reflection, and it will give you some supportive insight to help you to actually see yourself, right? It can actually guide you through reflection and essentially transformation. But again, you have to understand that although AI can synthesize ancient spiritual texts, you know, um, philosophical wisdom, right? Modern philosophy, right? Or psychology to open and offer you a tailored guidance just for you, you still have to be responsible. You still have to trust whatever it is that you're consuming, right? That you're really asking yourself, does this work for me? Does this resonate with me? Okay. And if it doesn't resonate with you, let it go. Because the resonance is the key. The resonance is your consciousness showing you, letting you know. Okay. So you have to recognize and hone that skill of resonance, hone that skill of listening to that your true voice, your consciousness leading you, letting you know what is your truth. You see? So you still must ask yourself, can a machine truly lead you to something as personal and as sacred as awakening? It cannot lead you. It can only support you in you leading the way. You see? So it's a matter of perspective and how you see it. You know, your journey is one you must walk. You must walk it with intention. Okay. You don't necessarily have to walk it alone, so to speak, because AI can support you, but AI isn't a human being, right? So essentially, you are still walking it alone, but you're walking it with insight and information, right? Collective insight and information from the entire world, just like you would a book. You will read through all the books you possibly can to get the insight to support you along your journey. But the book isn't doing it. You're still doing it, you see? And that's what you need to understand. That's how AI can actually help you and support you toward your own enlightenment, you know? So here are some interesting questions that you need to consider on this journey. As you explore AI's spiritual potential, it's important to stay mindful and of your like ethical concerns, right? Like biases, especially when it comes to the algorithm, and to not really over rely on it as an external tool. Like you have to be really crystal clear that even without AI, you'll be okay. Without AI, you will understand and tap into your own self-realization. You will still reach enlightenment at some point. But AI is just, again, a means by which you are to give and gain some insight to yourself, to just make the journey a little bit more smooth. But ultimately, the journey is still the journey, you know? Another question. Could AI mislead you, or can it become your spiritual crutch? Right? This is the thing. Let's think about like things like spell check. It's become a crutch for many people, right? Don't ask me to spell something. I'm just going to type it in and it's going to correct me and spell it for me. Cell phone numbers. Whose number do you remember? Most times we don't remember anybody's cell phone number. So our phones are a crutch to, of not remembering how to contact somebody. Say, for example, we lose our phone or we get lost someplace, right? Or our phone breaks and it's not working. It's a crutch. Now, will AI become a spiritual crutch for you? That is something you have to be mindful about, you know? But the thing I would say is AI will give you the tools to actually help you with, self-reflection, which is very important. I think self-reflection, spending time alone with yourself, is something that AI cannot do for you. When you do it, just like meditation and mindfulness, AI can give you that suggestion and recommend that to you. But when you do it, that's something that AI cannot do for you. You do it on your own. You see, AI can just simply provide you with the techniques, with the ideas. You still have to take on those ideas and implement them. You have to still practice your spiritual journey. AI cannot practice it for you, you know? So be mindful that the more you depend on it, the more you may question how it's shaping your beliefs and choices. You see, so AI will continue to suggest things to you. It will give you insight based on what you give to it. So the better you are at being transparent and vulnerable, the more it's going to give you things that will help you. But again, just because it gives you things that can help you and it can recommend things to you, it cannot do it for you. So you still have to be mindful and conscious about what you're taking from it, what you're doing with it, and that will support you on your journey. So transparency, responsibility, and conscious use is key if you're going to use AI wisely on your spiritual journey. You see, and when you do that, when you take that approach, AI doesn't become something you fear. Okay. It becomes something that you support, something you perhaps even love. And that is okay. As long as you are not attached, as long as AI isn't a requirement for your spiritual journey. You see? So looking ahead, what I want you to do is think of AI as, something that is guiding you, is in a sense that it is supportive of you along your spiritual journey. But it isn't the thing, right? You are the thing. You are the path. It isn't showing you the path. You are revealing the path within yourself. AI is just kind of helping you to, you know, clear your lenses a little bit, maybe see things that you probably wouldn't have seen along the path. But ultimately, your path is you. So whether you're skeptical or curious, you can't ignore how AI is changing the way we approach, personal development, self-development, and spirituality. It's here. And the more people put information into AI, the more AI can support you. You see, that's the thing with AI too. It is based on us. What we put into it is what we get from it. So if you are putting in positive, beautiful things into AI is going to reflect that back to you, just like the universe. You see? So remember, AI, just like the universe is a mirror, is a reflection, so is AI. So your job is to recognize this technological advancement, and the more, tools that you use and explore, your inner world would just basically become a medium, a canvas, a what's the word I'm looking for? A catalyst for creation or experiencing the world as you want it to be experienced. Okay. So the question is, will you use this tool to support you in awakening your own power, or will you just give the power away by not accessing what's available to you? Be mindful about that. Do not be discouraged because it's something new, because it's something that we haven't really seen as far as how far it will go. You decide how far it will go by being an active participant in where it is now. You see, the future of enlightenment may be more intertwined with AI than you expect. That's the truth. Your role is to engage with it, engage it with awareness, not dependency. And that's what will lead you to a great understanding as to how AI can be used and how you can actually find peace, fulfillment, and joy throughout your life, So I'll leave you with this one final question, and I would like you to leave it in the comments. Okay. Would you let AI guide your spiritual journey? Or is enlightenment a path that you can only walk without AI? Let me know what you think. Thank you so much. Please continue to join me on this journey. Feel free to go to drabundant.com, get access to this free ebook and so much more. Continue to join me on this journey. Peace and abundance always.